Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a real thank you for caring enough about one of the finest and loveliest cities on God's earth to come out tonight or to watch it wherever you are in the world, on the web and in whatever other way this is going to be broadcast. I want to talk to you about the loveliest city that I'd ever been to at that stage. I've been to other lovely ones now, but this was my first visit to Aleppo was in the 1970s. It was difficult to get to Syria in those days, but I managed it, and I spent only 3 days there, walking through the souks and walking through the open spaces there and into mosques, into churches, wandering all the way around in daylight and daytime and at night time too. Wonderful city. And I began to realize why it was that its fame had reached England even in the end of the 16th century, so that Shakespeare writes about Aleppo twice, once in Macbeth and once in Othello, and mentions it as a place that's a serious city. And serious it is. Founded somewhere around 4000 BC, nobody knows exactly when. So compact and so intensely lived in that it isn't really possible for archaeologists to dig down into its origins, because the modern Aleppo is built right on the site of these things. Destroyed again and again in antiquity, and indeed in early modern times. Destroyed by the Mongols, for instance, who went right through the whole of the Middle East and beyond, destroying cities. The Mongols didn't hold with cities, they didn't like them, and they destroyed part, at any rate, of Aleppo as they came. But that, in a way, was the start of Aleppo's glories, as it has been for the last few hundred years, because it was rebuilt at a time when architecture was at its height in the Middle East. And it's built out of this gorgeous limestone, sometimes white, sometimes buff-colored, sometimes almost pink. And these wonderful battlements and the marvelous little streets. I wandered through the streets at night time. It's a habit I have. I like to go through cities and see a different side of them. And I wandered through Aleppo late at night, managing to get rid of my official tail and wandering through wherever I wanted. Quite a haunting experience at night time. Silent, even though in those days as well, there were nightclubs that boasted about staying open till dawn, but not in the old part. And then in the day, it came alive. These marvelous souks everywhere, the marketplaces where people are selling everything from the fruit from right across Asia through to the embroidered silks that are one of the glories of Aleppo. And I came back and I was filled with the glory of the place. How lovely everybody had been, how charming they'd been, how gentle, how seemingly free of fear in a country which is not without its element of fear. But they seemed to all get on so well together, so that you'd see people in different kinds of Muslim headdresses. You'd see different kinds of Christians wandering around. Somebody told me, I have no idea whether it's true or not, but that there were 8 different types of Muslim and 10 different types of Christian in Aleppo. No idea. It could well be true. It certainly feels as though it's true. And I went back, and I went back again, and I went back a 4th time, and I absolutely loved it. And I felt that it kind of belong to me a little bit. You know, when you discover something for yourself, you feel you have a part in it. And I had a friend there who wasn't really able to email me in the early stages of the troubles there when they began in 2012, because he was afraid of being watched and listened to. But eventually he felt that he was free. He felt that he'd been liberated from the Assad regime, and he started writing to me about his hopes for a freer Aleppo, a freer Syria, which would one day be completely at peace again and would be properly governed. And then, after a while, I got an email from him that said, I'm leaving, I've got to get out, it's too dangerous. And this came after a period when he'd described the fighting that was going on, and then he said he was going to leave. Since then, I haven't heard from him. I know where he is, and he's in a refugee camp, but he's not got access to any kind of means of talking to me and telling me things. I'll see him one day, inshallah, and I'll be very happy to see him, and I hope I'll be able to go back with him to a new Aleppo. But the old one, the one that exists at the moment, the one that we see on our television screens and read about in our newspapers, is a terrible place. It's a place where nearly a dozen cases of poison gas have been used. Sarin gas, which is terrible, but it kills people quickly. Mustard gas, which doesn't necessarily kill them at all, but which destroys their life and their health for the rest of their time. And the weapon of choice, as it were, is the barrel bomb. Just an ordinary metal barrel, a can, large can about that size, stuffed with explosives, packed out with explosives. It's the most primitive and the most dangerous weapon that you can possibly imagine. And the helicopters come low over Aleppo, and they drop these bombs. They just push them out of the door. They must be able to see the people that they're bombing. There have been dozens upon dozens of barrel bombs used in Aleppo. Absolutely terrible and terrifying. And then, just 8 days ago, the Saturday before last, a brilliant and hard-working team of people from 4 different countries, perhaps more, managed to get a population exchange out of Aleppo and out of the villages around it, so that pro-government people could be taken into the pro-government parts of Aleppo, and anti-government people could be taken out to places outside where they would be safe. And you can imagine what they felt as they were leaving and feeling that they were at last going to be at peace, even if they had to leave their homes. 4,000 of them in buses altogether, and they halted by the side of the road by pre-arrangement. Somebody knew about that pre-arrangement and drove a vehicle packed with explosives right into the middle of the coaches. 163 people dead. 130 people dead, and 65 of them children. It takes a very special person to want to kill that many people that have already suffered so much. I don't want to get into the politics of it all because it's far too complicated. But what is the case is true in Aleppo, it's true in Damascus, it was true in Sarajevo, where I spent so many months of my life. It was true in Beirut. Really, there may be any number of sides shooting at each other, but actually, there there are only two sides. There are the people with the guns, and there are the people that don't have any guns and any protection and any strength at all. And that is the way that Aleppo is divided up. And I think what is wonderful about this tonight is that you've decided to be on the side of the people that don't have the guns, the people that are suffering and have suffered and will suffer, I'm afraid, for some time to come. But I want to ask you something, because, you know, these things always end. Sarajevo, after 4 years of siege, finally ended, and people from the different sides that used to attack each other are now more or less at peace and are certainly trading with one another. And I can imagine in Aleppo they'll be trading with one another one day. People like me, we're ambulance chasers. We'll be off after something else. We'll forget about Aleppo, forget about Syria altogether. But please don't forget about it. Don't forget the people of Aleppo, the people who've suffered in Aleppo, and the future of that absolutely beautiful city. And because it's a work of art in its own right, I think this evening, with a work of art, works of art, going on in front of us, will help that, perhaps help that healing process. But it'll certainly help, I hope, to bind all of us together in support of Aleppo. Thank you very much indeed.